Tape is rolling. Ten seconds.
I'm Bruce Apar, and you're watching Frank Talks with Bruce the Blog. Frank Talks with Bruce the Blog is brought to you by Chase Media Group, publisher of The Penny Saver and provider of multimedia marketing solutions for an omnichannel marketplace. And speaking of omnichannel, you can watch all of the Frank Talks with Bruce the Blog episodes on our YouTube channel, our community TV channel, which is on YouTube, by searching for Townlink TV. That's Townlink TV. And while you're at it, check out townlink.com, which is a brand new Hudson Valley site that features over 10,000 business listings and is the home of Hudson Valley bloggers as well. And that's townlink.com. On the show, we like to bring you interesting people from all of the communities in the Hudson Valley who are making really valuable contributions to the quality of life for all of us. This episode, we're going to be looking at retirement and the challenges of retirement, and what happens when you're ready to stop working and you have the ability to go into retirement. What happens, for example, when your spouse says, "Get out of the house," as we'll hear from our guest today. And I do want to welcome Austin Lempit, Austin from Armonk.
Right.
And you are a member of and also the Public Relations Manager of the Old Guard of White Plains Incorporated, right? And I was really happy, Austin, that you contacted us, and we've been talking now for a little while, and now finally we have you on the show, and there's a lot that we can talk about, and I think a lot that people watching will gain from hearing about your group and what your experience in retirement and with the organization. And how long now have you been a member of the Old Guard of White Plains?
About 8 years now.
8 years. Mm-hmm. And you did tell me, and I had that little tongue-in-cheek remark I just made, and your lovely wife Bonnie is with us here in the studio. One of the things that motivated you, let's say, to join was really her, right? Is that
Yes,
true?
well, she suggested that I find something to do outside of the house,
Right.
you see. And there was a news item in the New York Times which she pointed out to me and suggested that I go find those fellows and see if I could connect with them.
And so, often when somebody walks into a new situation or a new group, and in this case, it's very much a social setting, right? There's a lot of, understandably, anxiety or apprehension. I mean, did you feel that? Did you feel like, oh, I hope that, I like some of these people, that they like me, and things like that?
Well, I was very fortunate in one way, which perhaps might be unique, but it turned out that at the Old Guard was an old long-term connection, an officer of Perkin-Elmer, which is a famous scientific instrument company.
Yes.
And when he saw me, he dragged me in. And
When you saying when you showed up at your first meeting?
yes,
Yes, right.
yes, when I arrived there and I saw him, and I said, well, this is home base for me, and it was easy.
Oh, so that's nice.
If you don't have that connection, it's a little bit more complex, but the very nature of the group who are the key people at the Old Guard are looking forward to getting members to join.
Right.
And if you're a buddy, then it's even easier.
So in other words, people who are current members of the Old Guard of White Plains will reach out to people they know,
Yes.
recruit them,
Yes.
and bring them in. But I'm sure there are other people who just come in cold, so to speak, right?
Yeah. And then what happens is that there are members of the Old Guard whose purpose is really to make it easier for a prospective member to come in, and there are orientation sessions for prospective members,
Right.
which I do attend myself to help in the activity.
Right. And next year, 2014, I saw that the Old Guard of White Plains celebrates its 60th anniversary because it started in 1954.
Right.
And one of the impressive things, when you talk about longevity, and I think this group is a model of longevity, with all of the members there, which you said range in age from maybe somewhere in the 60s up to 90 plus, right? And even there's somebody who was 100. And there's, fortunately, it's good to know that there are a lot more people than there used to be who are living to 100 and beyond. But speaking of longevity, I saw that up until Hurricane Sandy in fall of 2012, that the group had this incredible string of meetings every week without missing one. I think it was 2,700 meetings, right, without missing one meeting, and then Hurricane Sandy came and spoiled that record,
Yeah.
right? But at this point, it's something like 3,000 meetings, right, that have been held, and this is a quote I believe that you came up with that is a very pithy description of the Old Guard of White Plains and what its premise is: all for pleasure, not for profit or egos. Right? Is that
That's
something
not
you?
my concept,
I
but
know you've
yes,
used
that
it.
it fits.
Yeah, right. Now, in terms of profit, that's an interesting contrast, so to speak, because all of the men, and we should establish it's male only, right?
Male only.
It is a male only bastion. Come from rather successful, it appears, business careers.
By and large,
maybe
yes.
self-employed as you were, or maybe working for companies, other companies, and so they've had their lifetime of trying to achieve profitability, whether for themselves or for somebody else. And what this statement is saying is that was then, and now it's time to sort of lean back a little bit and enjoy, these years.
Involvement.
Right? Yeah, right.
Yes.
And there are a lot of activities that the group sponsors, right, and hosts. I mean, I was really impressed by the range of activities, and you have guest speakers at every meeting.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So and you go to every meeting, right?
Yes.
So I just wanted to look at some of the guest speakers and the topics. I noticed there was an assistant DA that came. There was somebody who talked about how to form a community orchestra. And then it ranges to other topics that maybe are not so sunny, but you need to know about and talk about. For example, there's one here recently: depression in seniors, that somebody talked about, and that's a whole other area. The challenge of retirement, and you were talking about that, where as you do advance in years, you may want to do a lot of things that you used to do, as you were saying. I mean, you happen to be 90 and are still extremely vital, right? I mean, and you engage in sports, athletic endeavors, as do other members. But you were saying one of the challenges of retirement is that you do have to, at some point, come to grips with you can't do everything.
Yeah, there are limits physically. Ordinarily, I would say that the limitations are more physical than any other nature. But as you grow older, what you've learned to do is you measure what your capabilities are and apply them as best you can to what is accessible to you.
Right.
For example, one of the characteristics. I'm a public relations guy.
Yes?
I am going to be at a meeting next Tuesday at 9:15 a.m. at the Old Guard on matters concerning assisting prospective members to become members
Okay.
at 9:15
So it's
a.m.
recruitment. It's a recruitment effort initiative.
I gotta say bye-bye to wifey, who may even be awake at that point, and doggy, who is going to be wagging her tail like crazy, I hope, and get in the car and drive. It's about I don't know, 10, 15 miles to the Old Guard,
Right.
and try to be useful without being cynical or a royal pain, you know?
Right. But you want to present a good front to
Yes.
prospects.
Yes, well, this is, we, the group, are working on how we're going to accommodate something or other to benefit the membership, new membership at the Old Guard.
And how many members are there currently, Austin?
150 approximately.
And that stays steady, that number?
No, it varies because declining is one factor and recruiting is the other aspect of it.
Right.
So what we hope to do is to recruit stronger and diminish the other.
Well, but I did notice, for example, I think maybe it's this year, 2013, you had 25 new members, for example. So, so like you say, if you can keep that number above the number of people who
Phase out,
are no
yes.
longer there,
Yeah.
phase out, then you might be able to expand the membership, right?
Keep fingers crossed.
Right, yes. And also, it seems to be that it's a very diverse group of people. You have a newsletter called Senior Moments, and in a recent issue, there were the results of a survey that was conducted that revealed, I'll just read some of this. The Old Guard membership includes African, Asian, and Caribbean Americans, but one of the concerns is to get more, for example, there are no Hispanics currently, so you want to encourage Hispanics to join as well, so that the group remains a reflection of society, of contemporary society. And then it also says there are also a few Hindus and Sikhs.
Oh yes,
yeah.
yes.
So it's
very active.
So it's nice that it's a very ethnically diverse membership, and one of I guess your credos is that you say it's open to retirees regardless of color, ethnicity, creed, religion, or anything like that. So you have a really good mix of people. However, what is the premise behind the charter? I mean, I know there are, obviously in colleges there are fraternities and sororities, but that it's male only. It's just that.
It's male only.
I mean, what's the reason? Is there a reason, or it's just the way it is?
Well, I think at the outset that it was escaping from the home boss's influence.
Right.
That being a she, you see.
Right.
And so it's...
So it's like one, in the vernacular of the day, it's just like one big man cave, as they say, right? That's what
but
a man cave.
Women's clubs, and I remember when I was a young man, my mother rather,
Yes.
was very active in women's clubs. So
Yes, no,
it
absolutely.
didn't seem to be
No, that's right.
contradictory that there be men's clubs.
No, it isn't. It's complementary, actually, right?
Yeah.
Not contradictory.
And in this instance, it's men's clubs which is diverse.
Yes.
Men's club which is diverse. And we implement and supplement and work to build a better and to keep the guys engaged.
Constantly trying to improve and be more diverse in your activities, right?
Yes.
To diversify the activities. I know you have lawn bowling, which I've never actually done lawn bowling, but I have done bocce ball, which is I guess a cousin of lawn bowling, right? Golf, tennis, you play cards, right?
Also internal bowling.
Indoor bowling, yes, right, yeah. So do you participate in any of those, Austin?
No, I'm an intellectual type.
Okay. So what activities do you like to partake of in the old guard?
I like to get involved in what the dynamics are of the old guard and how to promote, because I've been most of my life sort of a salesperson for commodities,
Yes.
and membership is a commodity for me.
Okay.
And I want to see the group grow.
Right.
And get with solutions for those among us who are not as adept in physical matters,
Yes.
and enthuse those who are heavy with intellectual matters.
Speaking of which, I see from the newsletter that there are activities in that realm that you're describing, such as a current events discussion group, a book club, and things such as that. There's a quarterly publication, the newsletter. So that's
Financial club.
a financial club, okay. And that is not necessarily only, I guess, for members who maybe were in the finance industry, but for anybody. Right?
Yeah, how to beat the stock market.
How to beat the, that's, anybody who has a secret to that should be a billionaire. Like Michael Bloomberg, I guess, is one example.
Yeah, well, one of them, yeah, anyway.
Right. And, one of the things you were saying when we were talking, I mean, you definitely have a gift of phraseology or a gift of gab, like you made some comments about, we're all bucking the barrier, meaning, there is, so to speak, a metaphorical wall or barrier that, I guess you see on the horizon as you advance in years. And what you're saying is, I guess a lot of effort, understandably, is put into keep pushing the barrier back, so to speak, right?
Yeah. To resistant.
Right.
To resist
Yes.
Yeah.
Resist the barrier closing in on you.
Yeah.
And you've been successful at that, right?
Well, what happens is that some of us are innately, I'm a pitchman.
Yeah.
And as an ad man, you find ways to solve problems which some otherwise people would say, I can't deal with it.
Right.
And I have found over my years that if I want to do it, I will give it a try. If I don't succeed, what the heck? I try it anyway.
At least you tried. That's right. Yeah.
And as long as I am capable, and I encourage the guys I work with and the men that I know there, let's do the best we can and see what the heck happens.
Right. It's just like the chestnut. If at first you don't succeed, right, try again.
Yeah.
And we should establish that your professional career was running an ad agency,
Right.
So to speak, an industrial ad agency, right? For engineering and clients.
The Austin Lawrence Group, which still exists, my son has the company now, is devoted to making effective measures to have businesses grow or succeed or overcome or whatever their challenges.
Right.
And you get a kick out of it.
Right, and it served you well, right? And,
Yeah.
And I trust it's serving him well as well.
We're praying on that one too.
Right. Well, of course, then I have to ask you the all-important question: do you ever watch Mad Men?
Yeah, but I don't agree with them.
Yeah, but that's a different aspect of the advertising business in the '60s, which I remember well. I mean, I was still rather young at the time, but I always was intrigued, even as a young person, by the advertising industry. I still remember, all the Ogilvy and Mather and Benton and Bowles and Young and Rubicam. Now there's like 3 international corporations that own all the agencies. But what don't you agree with about the show? I'm curious.
Well, I have difficulty dealing with what happened is when in my younger days I worked for ad agencies, and I was very aggressive with dealings with the clients without being obnoxious. And I ultimately wound up in a corner office, which was the exalted one.
Yeah, that's right.
With my 10 o'clock coffee, as I would say it, and then the wagon which came along with all sorts of noshes on it,
Yes.
And because I was effective there, I enjoyed it to the hilt. And then my careers changed and I became associated with the companies outside of an agency. And my life totally changed. I then became a participant in driving one thing, whereas before I was trying to make this one work and that one work and be effective for somebody else. Now I had to be pushing for a parent company that I was a part of.
Right. It wasn't the same
It was
for
tougher.
you. Right.
It was a hellishly tougher thing.
Right. And is that when you started to exit the business, or?
I was exiting the business, and I was in the. I'm tone deaf, and I was in the musical instrument business. You'll work on that one.
Right. And speaking of media and the advertising business, which is so different today than it was during the Mad Men era, and when you were running your own business as well. Among the old guard of White Plains members, is there any engagement, for example, with social media? Does anybody go on Facebook? Do they use Twitter? I mean, do they go on websites in general? Use computers? I mean,
Well, use computers. A lot of guys use computers, but the other, how the connection with Facebook and people like that, I don't know. I don't follow it.
Right.
I just got myself entangled with Facebook on a matter.
Entangled? You said how was that?
Well, I don't know what I should say. That, I'm a con nut.
Okay.
I've been a con nut most of my life.
Right.
And I used to collect them. But one of our resident automobiles, and I won't name anybody.
You mean a car company?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. You don't have to name
I
them.
don't want to.
No, don't name them.
Trying to resolve a problem with the vehicle, and I saw something on Facebook, so I challenged the maker.
Okay, and that's exactly what it's there for.
and-
That's one of its most valuable applications. Actually, is reaching out to companies that I will tell you from my own experience are much more prone to respond quickly to a social media complaint, that a complaint posted on social media. Is that
I
your
found that
experience?
because
Yes.
I got a response saying, call this gentleman,
Right.
and maybe we can solve what our concerns are.
Right.
And my wife's concerns are about the car because she's driving it a lot.
Right.
And now she's driving one of my cars.
Right. You were also talking about, we're talking about the age of certain members, that well into their 90s, and yet, like, one of them still is a very active tennis player, right?
Oh, yes.
You were talking about
and
that.
he's a great guy and a marvelous pianist.
Oh, is he the one who also sort of serenades members
Yes,
as they?
yes, and he's
as they-
marvelous.
See,
Absolutely
that's something.
marvelous.
I mean, and that should be self-evidently very encouraging to people who are watching, and maybe they're in that same age range, and maybe as you've noted, somebody easily at any age you can get down on yourself, for whatever reason. But there's no reason that if you stay in good health and God willing, you don't have any really bad health conditions, that you can push yourself. I mean, there is free will involved here, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's that you need to want to do it. You need to want to stay vital, which seems to be one of your secrets, right?
Well, there's no package that's associated with it, so I guess so.
I mean, you can't go to the store and buy it over the counter, right? It's and what about where does the group meet? I want to let everybody know, if they want to go down to a meeting and just show up, where would they go?
The church's address we have here.
Yeah, he can. Is he going to? Is Richard showing it on the screen? You told him. Well, let's just say that you can go to the website, the Old Guard of whiteplains.org, and all the information is there, right? There are
Right.
phone numbers that I guess they could call the president, or who's listed there. Or,
One of the problems we have is that the old guard does not have a phone connection And then with some of the heat that I applied to the organization,
Right.
it's now being worked on. So I
You mean
believe
it doesn't have its own central phone number,
That's
right?
right.
There's your number, there's the membership chairman, I know who's listed, there's the president.
Yes.
Right. But I will say that the meetings are held at the Memorial United Methodist Church at 250 Bryant Avenue
Right.
in White Plains. And again, and saying that, as it does say on the website, the Old Guard is not affiliated with any religious organization. The meetings happen to be there. I go
Because it has a large theater and seating capacity for almost 200 people.
Right.
And since they're on Tuesdays when we have the speaker,
Right.
you have to have ability to accept people who want to come and hear what's going on.
Sure, yeah.
So there's a mechanical aspect to it.
Right.
You have to accommodate.
Right. And the meetings are every Tuesday. They start at 10 a.m., right?
That's correct.
And the first hour of the meeting is conducting business as the agendas go, old business, new business, reports from various committees.
And
right.
At 10 o'clock, at 11 o'clock, do you have the speakers?
Right, you have your guest speaker who speaks for about an hour, right?
Yes.
With questions and answers. One of the things that I found interesting is in a article about the Old Guard that you provided, I guess a couple of speakers were giving feedback that they used the word difficult, a very difficult group, and then they said because you ask a lot of questions. And I thought, if you're a speaker and you think that's difficult, then maybe you shouldn't be speaking because in my experience when I've been a speaker and you have a lot of questions, that's a very good thing. That's not a group being difficult, that's a group being inquisitive and curious. And
Involved.
And involved,
yes,
yeah.
yes.
So I found it interesting that some speakers thought it was difficult. The group was difficult because you ask a lot of questions.
Well, what happens is every once in a while somebody will stand up and challenge a statement.
And why not? I think that's great. That's
Well,
you know something that means, by the way. And again, when you're a speaker, you value this that people were paying attention. You know that they were listening, and that they want to offer their own feedback or input, and that's a really good thing. That's, yeah. I mean, it says a lot for the members of the Old Guard of White Plains that they're really tuned into what's being said, and something else along those lines that I took note of is that, like I was saying, please stop sending people to talk about estate planning, right? I guess there were too many. We don't want to keep hearing about estate planning all the time, right?
Viewpoints on police departments, for example,
Right.
was one of them which I found fascinating. And
Sure, yeah. And what about, is there a lot of chatter, let's say, whether or not it's a formal speaker topic or not, about what everybody in the country is talking about, health care? Do you get a lot of that going on?
I think they're much more diverse than that.
Right.
In looking at, I was looking at a series of Speakers Matters going back for years and years and
Right,
years
topics,
and years.
yes.
And they're all over the lot. And
Right, so, yeah, but I thought just maybe in terms of just casual conversation, that maybe the members are talking about the health care bill that everybody else is talking about as well, so. Anyhow, that's about it, Austin. This went by very fast. And
that quickly?
yes, it's that quickly. That actually
Thank you.
was 30 minutes flashing right before your eyes. And I want to seriously and sincerely thank you for being with us. And again, anybody watching who's interested can go to the oldguardofwhiteplains.org website. And that was the website address I just gave, oldguardofwhiteplains.org, and find out more about the group. And maybe you'll go down and meet Austin in person. You never know.
Come on down.
Yeah. All right. Thanks very much for being with us, and good luck in everything. And good luck to your grandson, who is looking to be an actor. I know what that's like. Thank you for watching Frank Talks with Bruce the Blog. And remember, when Bruce the Blog listens, people talk.